June 27, 1940. A beautiful, clear, peaceful and joyful day was coming to an end. At 5 in the evening, my 13-year-old son and I were at the home of my husband's brother, a priest, in a village 25 kilometers away from our hometown, where we were spending our holiday. We turned on the radio to listen to the news as usual, but we were horrified. The trembling voice of King Charles could be heard. "Dear Bessarabians, a great misfortune has befallen our country. The Russians have demanded the surrender of Bessarabia. We do not have the strength to fight them. We have sent a delegation to Germany to see what we can do. Tomorrow at 5 in the morning, I will tell you the final answer." We were left frozen and desperate, especially me. My husband had remained at home, while I and our son were in this village. I wanted to leave for home immediately, but no one in the whole village wanted to set out on the road in the evening and under such circumstances. I didn't sleep all night, waiting for the clock to strike 5. The next morning brought very sad news. The same voice of King Charles said, "Dear Bessarabians, there is no other salvation but to leave Bessarabia. Take only what is necessary. Come all to Romania. Only the poor remain behind. We have ordered the army to retreat last on foot and to make all vehicles available to the population. We have made an agreement with the Russians that they will not enter Bessarabia for 3 days, so that you can all take refuge. Do not be afraid. If there is no room for you in Romania, Germany will welcome you with open arms." At 6 in the morning we set off for home on foot, more running than walking. By noon we reached the outskirts of our city, but we were horrified by what we saw. Dozens of Russian tanks with cheerful soldiers who were shouting, singing, and acting like great victors. The Jews, who considered the arrival of the Russians a great happiness, and who all remained in Bessarabia, greeted them with bread and salt, with flowers and red ribbons on their chests. When we arrived home, my desperate husband told us, "If you had been at home, we would be in Romania by now." At 7 in the evening on June 27th, Captain Mihailescu came with a large cart and 2 soldiers and told me, "Take what you can quickly and leave." How could I have left without you? On June 28th, 1940, the border closed in half a day, not 3 days as the Russians had promised. For 2 weeks, Bessarabia was left without administration, only with soldiers keeping order. Around July 15, administrative bodies began to arrive. The next day, arrests of those who had been involved in Romanian politics began. Liberals, Averescu supporters, Iron Guard members, even nationalists. In villages, a few wealthy farmers who did not want to part with their riches were arrested, and their property was confiscated. A good part of their wealth fell into the hands of those who arrested them. At first, they didn't touch us. We waited in tense anticipation. At the beginning of August, the teaching staff began to arrive. One day, my husband was summoned to the local council, where he was offered the position he had previously held as the main agricultural engineer of the district. My husband refused this offer on the grounds that he was the son of a priest, which they considered an unhealthy origin, and they would not trust him. He asked to be given a smaller job in his specialty. Then one of the officials told him, Do you see how many cars are heading to Tighina prison every day? If you don't show up for work tomorrow, you'll be in one of them. Out of fear, he reported to the job he was offered. Using the same method, they also forced me to return to my teaching position at the 7-year high school. I was given my former 4th grade class, whose students had been admitted to high school, but were sent back to repeat the grade so they could study the subjects in Russian. The children didn't know any Russian, and they had to work hard. 3 times a week in the evenings, we had to teach Russian to all the young people. My son, who had passed to the 6th grade at the Alecu Rousseau High School in Chișinău, was now learning in the 7th grade. His luck was that he spoke Russian at home, and since he was 5, I had taught him to write and read Russian. He was the top student in his class. The days passed slowly. A Ukrainian school inspector came to us asking to be temporarily hosted until he could find a place to live. Knowing they were vengeful, we agreed on one condition: to host him for only a month. He stayed for 3 months, claiming he couldn't find a suitable host for his situation. We saw he didn't care much about our school, as he was always on the move. I asked him once why he didn't come to check on me. I was the only Romanian among Russians. I had learned a different pedagogy, and I didn't know how to teach according to Russian methods. He told me very honestly that he was busy with arresting wealthy farmers and had sent 30 Bessarabian carpets home to Vinica. Another time, when I reproached him for not being interested in school matters, he was even more honest and said, "I am a blacksmith by trade. What kind of school knowledge could I have?" I was surprised and said, "But how can you be a school inspector?" Then he took out his party membership card and, laughing, told me, "This little red booklet works wonders." Soon after, when his superiors found out about his business, they arrested him, and that's how we got rid of him. In November, upon arriving at school, I went to the teacher's office to sign the attendance register and found a local newspaper on the table. As I read it, I saw my name. The newspaper had been placed there by my colleagues. I read, "Due to the imprudence of the administrative and security bodies, a dangerous man, son of a priest, has slipped into the position of district head in the agricultural section and must be immediately removed from service." It was about my husband, who was dismissed from his job without any explanation 2 days later. It was a big blow, more moral than material. He had been highly appreciated by the Romanians, every year receiving thanks, decorations, prizes, and now he was thrown out like a rag. We were financially well off. My husband had a salary of 9,000 lei from the Romanians and a monthly allowance of 3,000 lei. As a teacher, I earned 6,000 lei. We had a new, modern house that had been finished in 1939, which had cost us 250,000 lei. We also had 10 hectares of land, 2 hectares of vineyard, our courtyard was full of poultry, and we also had a cow. We always had 2 servants. This is how the Russians found us. Therefore, we wouldn't have starved without my husband's job. My husband, being free, went more often to Tighina, to a cousin of mine who was also married to an agricultural engineer and had the misfortune of remaining in Bessarabia. The head of the county security was staying with them as a guest, and they had promised him that if he helped them leave for Romania, they would provide documents stating they had sold to him their house, which had just been finished and built in the latest fashion. One day, my husband came back from Tighina very happy and told me the head of security had told our cousin in strict confidence that the Russians had demanded from the Romanians the communists who were in prison, Gheorghe Gheorghiu, Petru Groza, Anna Pauker, and all those imprisoned with them. King Charles II accepted this request, but in the form of an exchange of population, meaning the Russian would give Romania all the officials who remained in Bessarabia. They sent lists to each ministry with the names of officials, including us and our cousins. Then the chief said, "Know that they will call you to the county security. They will yell at you. They will force you to sign that you refuse to leave for Romania. But do not give in, because it's legal and you won't have another chance to leave." This news was like a beacon that illuminated our dark lives. On December 6th, the day of St. Nicholas, a militiaman came to school and summoned me to the security office. I received the news with great joy, and, brave and calm, I went. He led me into the office of the head of the security, invited me to sit down, and suddenly said in a stern tone, "We have information that your family intends to flee to Romania." I was not intimidated at all, and calmly replied, "We are not that stupid to risk death or imprisonment, especially when we have a child. But if it's legal, then we want to go to Romania, because that's our homeland. Romania raised us, educated us, and we owe them our service." He became very angry and said, "How do you know it's legal? Who told you that?" I answered, "I know it's legal for the population exchange, but I won't reveal who told me." Then he changed his tone and spoke more gently, saying we should stay here because we were born in Bessarabia and we would be fine here. I replied, "Please, finish with me. You took me out of class and the children are left alone." He pushed a list toward me with many names printed on it, and I signed it, writing, "I want to go to Romania." He angrily told me, "Get out of here." When I left, the same militiaman came after me and told me they had sent for my husband. I asked him to tell my husband that I signed for departure. That evening, when I returned from school, as I also had afternoon classes, my husband told me that they had kept him for 2 hours. The head of the security office pounded on the table with his fists, yelled at my husband, and threatened him that he wouldn't be allowed to leave. My husband countered with the argument that he had been fired from his job. Then the chief said, "We have fools here too, but I guarantee you that you will be reinstated in your position tomorrow." Then my husband asked him, "But how did my wife sign?" He hesitated, then said, "Even if she signed to leave, you are the head of the family and can change everything." He gave him the same list, and my husband signed, "I want to go to Romania." Enraged, the chief said, "Get out of here, but you'll remember me." When my husband finished telling what had happened to him, I said, "I don't know what it will be, Romania or Siberia.